Welcome to Violin Adventures number 212. This week is a little different from other weeks in that we have different projects that are bubbling up. Here we are inside the shop, and I want to take you up close to the different projects that we're working on. All right, I'm going to try out my new plane, and I'm also trying out these handles that attach to it and make it more comfortable. So let's see how it goes. I have here a hammered dulcimer. The plan here is just to get it cleaned up and polished up and then tuned up. We've got the strings on the top, 2 for each note, and then we've got sympathetic strings that go here underneath, and then this side is a different note than this side. So first thing I'm going to do is remove all the strings and give it a good polish and clean, and then we'll tune it up. Well, I've got my tool here and I'm taking off all the strings on this hammered dulcimer so that we can give it a nice clean up. There's lots of dust in here and a polish, and make it look really nice. And I've got this like duck nose pliers. It works really nice removing these strings, straightening them and pulling them up from the pegs. I've had this in the shop for quite a while and not really used it, but it really comes in useful on this. We got all the strings off. These bridges are just loose, so I'm going to mark where they are, and even the decoration is loose. I think this should have been glued in, but I'm going to take this all off and polish it, and then I'll show you what it looks like afterward. And here's all my strings. Okay, here it is after it's been polished once, and it's getting late, so I'm gonna stop on this, and then tomorrow I'll probably go over it again. Here it is. I've done a second polish on this, and now I'm happy with it, and I'm gonna start putting it back together. Well, we got to start on it. We'll see how long it takes us to get all these strings on. We have a different note here and a different note on this side. And some of the strings, actually the strings that go on the top of this one go underneath on this side and back and forth. So it's very interesting. So here's a question. What is this? Look at that. There's a hole. There's a beautiful soundboard. And here's the back side. And if you want to peek inside that, and then over here is a column. Here's a close-up of what this looks like when it's taken apart. So this is a beautiful old harp, as far as we can tell, from the 1800s or sometime in the early 1800s, and it might be made by Erard, who invented the levers for the harps. I bought this, kind of rescued it. Once I got it home and got a good look at it, I realized that all the metal parts had been stripped from it so that it didn't have the strength to be set up and held with strings. So this harp has been just sitting around looking pretty but not being productive. And I've so much wanted to get this beautiful soundboard, and you can see the back here is a beautiful harp. It's just that it couldn't be used. Well, Davey from John Kovac Harps has offered to work on this harp. So we're working it. He's going to work out the string lengths and the shape of a new neck so that we can get this back to singing again. I'm so excited about this. Also, we spent an evening taking it apart, trying to figure it out. The metal parts and would have all gone down through this beautiful carved pillar down to the pedals on the bottom. But since all the pedals are removed, we're going to put this into a parlor lever harp, is what the plan is. Anyway, I'm sorry I didn't get to film that first part. We were so concentrated on working on what we should do with the harp but here's your update, and from here on out you can watch us see if we can bring this harp back to life again. Just a little backstory on this. When I got it, the whole harp was painted green. So after stripping it and seeing this beautiful wood underneath, why anyone would cover it up, I don't know. And then I gilded this. This would have been my first gilding experience. Okay, here we are reading out of our book, Violins and Violinists by Franz Varga. And we left off reading about Violin. Violin is one of my favorite makers. And so we'll take up on page 89. And as you can see, I'm sitting here in the middle of the harp, parts of the harp. I just move them out of the way and we'll have our story, and then we'll go back to work. Violin cooperated closely with the scientist Savart, who has made important contributions to the mathematical analysis of the Stradivari violins as regards the relation between thickness of wood and tone. This work was greatly facilitated by Violin, of whom it has been said that he knew more about Strads than old Stradivari himself. As a matter of course, Violin also devoted much time to the mixing of a good varnish. At long last he succeeded in producing a varnish of great brilliance, radiant color, and surprising translucence. But he too guarded the secret of his varnish so jealously that it was buried with him. Violin never ceased to search for the best raw material for his instruments. For this purpose, he undertook extensive journeys. He bought up wood from dance hall floors, old doorposts, antique furniture, and paneling, and paid any price if the particular piece seemed promising to him. Finally, he came to the conclusion that new resonant wood, cut in boards 1.5 inches thick and dried for 10 years, met all requirements. This conviction is still shared by most violin makers. I agree. He also tried to improve the viola and designed a larger type, which he called a contralto. This instrument, however, was difficult to play, and as the composers did not care to write chamber music parts for it, it never came into general use. There was yet another field in which Violin made a great name for himself, namely the development of the violin bow. The bow had to pass through many phases before it became the little miracle it is today. At first it was just a bent rod with an incision at either end to which the hair was tied. There's a diagram of the progression of the bows, and it kind of describes that in the next paragraph. I'm going to skip over that and come up to Tartini. Tartini was the first to suggest improvements to make possible more subtle modifications, thus opening the way to what is now called bow technique. Since that time, the wood of the bow has become lighter, the stick lost its outward curve, which turned inward as it approached the head. Today, the usual type of bow is that designed by Viotti, with its straight and elastic stick. This improvement is mainly due to the Tort family of Paris. Old Tort used to make Viotti's bows and paved the way for his famous son, Francois Tort, who lived from 1747 to 1835, who has justly been called the Stradivari of the bow. He had started out as a watchmaker, a craft in which he acquired a light hand and touch, qualities playing an important part in his later profession of bowmaker. He took the greatest trouble to prepare himself for the new craft. He began by making bow sticks from staves of a cask, because he did not have the means to buy expensive special wood. Only when his hand had acquired unfailing skill did he experiment with various types of wood. In the end, he decided that Brazilian Pernambuco wood was the most suitable for his purposes. The outbreak of the 1775 war between England and her Northern American colonies, however, made the import of that dye wood difficult. Normally, the French dye works used it in large quantities. As a result of the war, a pound of the wood cost nearly 7 francs. Besides, Tort often had to examine as much as 100 weight of Pernambuco wood before he found a piece that he cut straight and had no knots. This explains why Tort asked as much as 12, I'm not sure what this is, for a bow even at that time. Nowadays, a Tort bow is worth between 100 to 150 pounds, and of course that's way out of date. It is also to Tort that we owe the final decision of the length of the bow, which previously used to vary. Tort asked famous violinists such as Viotti and Kreutzer for their opinion, and as a result fixed the length of the violin bow at 29.1 to 29.3 inches. And I'll skip over a couple paragraphs of how they were made. And it is said that Tort was completely uneducated and could neither read nor write. In that case, it is all the more surprising that he was able to figure out the distribution of forces in the bow with such precision. Tort's bows were at last recognized as ideal by violinists, and the demand for them constantly increased, so that he simply could not cope with it, despite very hard work. It was therefore most important that Violin should succeed in putting into the form of rules what Tort had discovered in practice, thus facilitating bow making by other craftsmen. Without any mathematical training, Violin used a formula for the reduction of the bow stick. His publication in 1856 of the formula attributed to Fetis enabled any bow maker to determine the gradual reduction of the diameter with great accuracy. In this technique, Violin himself trained many pupils. Among them, Violin of Myricourt, the German violin maker Christoph Nürnberger, worked with Violin as an apprentice for 5 years. It was mainly responsible for the fame in the field of bow making, a reputation which is still undiminished. Violin also used steel for making bow sticks in order to replace the expensive Pernambuco wood. These bows were used with great success by well-known violinists. All this adds up to a general appreciation of Violin as a most versatile craftsman. As the years went by, he became a very successful dealer in old master instruments. And we started out reading this book. We started out with the chapter on Teresio. So we're going to skip that. So next time we'll take up on part 2 and we'll read about some famous violinists. Freddie wants to chat.
Hi, I'm Freddie, and my friend Mr. Thomas Pinch sent me a video of him playing on a pipe organ. I'm so excited. So here it is. Thank you, Mr. Pinch, for sending that song. It was really nice. Yay! Well, have a good week, and I'll see you all next week. Bye!
The Hebrew Minute. Enu la Hashem batodah. Zamru la Eloheinu bakinor. Praise the Lord or answer the Lord with thanksgiving. Praise or sing to God with the harp, but just remember kinor is violin in modern Hebrew. So it could say sing to the Lord on the violin. If you know where this is found, please leave it in the comments below. Well, this is Thanksgiving Day. It is so peaceful and quiet, and you can hear the birds. Why don't we take a trip down to the creek and see what it's doing? Wow, that creek really looks like it has widened since I've been down here last. I love the sound of the water. Here was where the beavers gave us all that trouble this past year, but they seem to be gone. And I don't know if you can hear the birds, but it sounds like they're having a happy Thanksgiving too. Here's the parts of our new violin. We did a little bit of work this week. The professor was by cutting out the scroll of his next cello. Over here we've got a beautiful old harp from the 1800s. The neck of the harp was completely unusable, so we are taking this apart and working on creating a new neck. Over here is a hammered dulcimer, We've got this all polished and the wood protected, and now we've got to get those strings back on. And here's the carving progress on our violin back with our special tools. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your wonderful comments and your thumbs up. And until next time, bye.